Alrighty, folks, we're going to have a conversation about a particular real estate asset type that is destined for 40, 50, in some cases, even more discounts. This is an information customer conversation I have had with Ken McElroy talking about real deals. Now, of course, if you don't know what I'm talking about Class B and Class C multifamily. Anna, this is an environment where you and I both play. We both own some of the smaller stuff. You own some of the big, massive stuff. And according to Ken McElroy, the pain has just started in Class B and Class C. What are you seeing out there? And I'll share a deal that Ken just looked at. What are you seeing out there?
Sure. I would say I respect Ken a lot. I know him personally. Great guy, super smart, owns way more real estate than I do. With that said, I will say that I have a slight disagreement with him when it comes to Class B, because what I see is that true Class B assets are actually doing really well. The Class A stuff is struggling in some markets where it's overdeveloped and overbuilt because the builders can't get out of their loans and they can't fill them fast enough and sell them fast enough to get out of the loans at today's cap rate. So there's pain in A. There is significant pain in C and D properties. D goes without saying, but C properties, when I say Class C, I'm talking about older, but I'm also talking about tertiary markets. And so sometimes there's a nuance in A, B, and C. A lot of times people will just say it's their age, but the reality is age, the level of update, and the location that it's in, and the population of the people and the number of jobs that it's in all impact whether it's considered A, B, C, or D. So generally speaking, Class C is what we call workforce housing. They're generally older, generally 30 years plus, and generally in older areas. They could be 30 to 80 years old with some updates, but they're in areas that are average middle class income or slightly below that. And the reason that C is struggling so badly right now is two things. One, many investors went in to value add these deals. So they bought them 2 years ago, let's say. They put a ton of money into them. They thought that they could get the rents up to a certain level. But because of the economy and because of the fact that cost of living has gone up 28% for the average family in the United States in the last couple of years, those families just simply cannot afford to push rents. And so rents have fallen in those areas. So if you're an owner of a Class C asset, not only do you now have cap rates, which have gone up, meaning that values have fallen because buyers need a better return on their investment as compared to treasuries. But you've got incomes that are falling because people can't pay their rent. You've got vacancies that are increasing. And oh, by the way, your costs have gone up too, your taxes and your insurance and your utilities. And so you've got this double whammy on Class C properties where incomes can't keep up like they sometimes can in that Class A newer, higher income market. And you've got the cap rate problem. So there's a lot of distress in those Class C deals, especially if they have short-term loans on them, which most syndicators who are flipping properties do use short-term bridge debt because they don't want these massive multi-million-dollar prepayment penalties on 10-year plus loans. So that's where there's a lot of pain. The Class B is kind of in the middle. Class B are usually about 10-year-old properties, let's say 10 to 20, maybe 10 to 30 if they've already had a value add cycle, but they're generally in the same Class A markets, but a few miles away, right? So maybe it's not where the brand new Starbucks and Aldi's and Whole Foods and all of that went in, or the new Amazon warehouse, but it's about 5 to 10 miles away. Still by great shops, great restaurants, great quality of life, great schools, schools rated 6, 7, and 8, maybe not private schools 10, but they're in great areas with really strong employer base. And generally speaking, Class B properties, they are keeping up with some of the rent bumps, unless they're right next to Class A properties that have drastically given so many incentives that it's hard to keep up with those rents. So I don't think B properties are hit as hard. I look at properties in multiple states constantly. The Class B stuff is not really even being trading or for sale because a lot of those deals, Michael, were not value add. They were bought as long-term buy and holds. Their sellers are not as desperate to sell. Yeah, they got to cut their rents a little bit, but they've got longer term loans on them. So I think it's your C and A that are really struggling more so than the B. But more pain is coming. I agree with Michael. I'm sorry, I agree with Ken and you. More pain is coming in commercial. We haven't seen the bottom yet.
Yeah, really to Ken's point, and you brought it up as well. It definitely was the buildings that were bought for value add with bridge debt,
Yes.
right? If you bought a Class B asset with long-term Fannie Freddie 10-year debt, you're fine. It just doesn't
Yes.
matter.
Right.
It is all the value add stuff. And to Ken's point, that was what really took off during 21, 22, 23 is all these
Yes.
brand new syndicators came in and frankly were overbuying. That's why he wasn't active, right? He couldn't make any deals pencil with these, so many new entrants to the market.
Yes, and to that point, Michael, it was so drastic that generally, you've got a spread, you've got like a market rate or a market cap rate that people demand for Class A versus B and C. And typically, a Class A brand new asset, investors want about 230 bips, so 2.3% above what a 10-year treasury would pay because it's low risk, right?
Yep.
And then you go up, at least 50 basis points, 150 basis points as you get into older properties. And what happened is the cap rates that people were paying compressed to be almost where brand new was for Class C assets. So they were basically not getting a risk premium. They were so overpaying that they were paying almost as much as they would for a Class A asset, like no time ever in history. Really overpaid, because they believed so much in the upside once they did their value add. They believed so much that interest rates would fall and cap rates would fall and values would go up that they just made a horrible investment. So there is tons of distress there in Class C, and a lot of it's because they overpaid like no time in history.
Yeah, the deal was dead the day they bought it. They just didn't know it yet. And I'll give you a real example. Ken shared this on our conversation that went live on June 10th. You can go find it. And he talked about a deal in Texas that was sold for $40 million. It was the classic new syndicator value add opportunity. In this particular case, the syndicator raised $15 million in LP money. They got a bank loan for 25, a bridge loan, short-term debt, the kind of, 2-year with 1-year add-ons, whatever it is, for $25 million. So that's how you get to the purchase price of $40 million. Well, fast forward, the property is not turned. It's 40% vacant, and the bank is taking it back. The bank called Ken and offered to sell it to him. And the bank would have to finance it because at 40% vacancy, it's not financeable by anybody else except the existing note holder. So Ken did a cursory overview of the building and passed. Here's the deal. The bank called him and offered it at $14 million. If you do some very back of the napkin math, that's a 65% discount off $40 million. So what happens? The LP money evaporated. The bank takes an $11 million hit if they were able to sell it for 14. I just want people to realize this is the kind of catastrophe that's coming to some of these deals. If to your point, Anna, if you overpay for, I don't know if it's a C or a B minus or whatever it was, but clearly overpaid. Somebody clearly overpaid for this asset by a big margin. And I think the wildest thing from Kenny's he goes, I evaluated it for 5 minutes and passed.
Wow.
He passed.
Wow. It's got to be a really bad asset in a really probably bad area as well. And this is another thing that I saw and what you have to be so careful of, right? There's warnings and lessons to be learned from all of these things so that you don't make the same mistakes, because you could make the same mistake on a single family house, right? In the same kind of area, putting bad debt and buying a bad property in a bad part of town. Location. It really is, that part's so important. And so many people, because they're chasing yield, they're trying to create these returns, overpay for properties, but they overpay for bad properties in bad locations where a lipstick on the pig and renovations aren't going to change the market that it's in. It's not going to change the high crime, the bad jobs, the poor schools, and that's going to keep your rents down and your values down for a long time. So, that's probably my guess would be, knowing Ken, if it was in a great location, he has the funds to turn it around and sell it for a huge premium. It's probably a terrible location. and they've probably run the property to the ground where the cost to do the renovations, you just can't recoup the rents for whatever the incomes are, in that area. So, but it's a huge lesson for us not to do the same thing and to get overly excited and overly optimistic on your projections on the exit. But the mantra in commercial, Michael, for many, many years, well, since 2023, then 2024 was survive to 25. By 25, the rates will drastically cut. And at the end of the year, I started to say to myself, pray to heaven you make it to 2027 for these syndicators, right? That's what I've started to say. And because there's so many unknowns that have kept the Fed from drastically cutting rates, the tariff threats and inflation, being sticky, and wars and all these kind of things, supply chain bottlenecks, that it's just lasted a lot longer than what people thought. But the reality is so many of these lenders did say, okay, we think the Fed will cut rates. These are good assets in good locations, the ones that are, and they allowed their borrowers to extend one more year. Like, we'll give you one more year. As long as you make the mortgage payment, we will not call the loan. Just make your mortgage payment. We don't care what your DSCR is. We don't care that the value's down on paper. You make that payment and we'll give you another year before you have to refi out. Well, those lenders can no longer do that. Number one, there's too much risk in the system. They've got bonds and they've got assets, commercial real estate value property, that they're just not worth what they were. And the regulators don't want them keeping them on the books. And so they're making them write them down. So the reason there is still pain, and Kenny's right, that it's just beginning. And you and I've talked about this, that, hey, we might be on the third inning out of 7 last year. Like, the fact of the matter is these banks are no longer able to extend and pretend if they believe the writing's on the wall. If they believe that interest rates aren't really going to come down, they know that eventually these owners run out of cash. They just can't keep up and keep making the payments, so they call the loan. So that speaks opportunity for investors who are ready, like Ken, to say, if it's a good asset in a good area, you can get an amazing deal. Now, you can't say, this is what I still see some syndicators doing, and I'm going to get hate for this because I'm in the community and I'm a syndicator, right? But I see a lot of deals still being pitched to me. We got a great deal. It's 10% off or 15% off of its last sale. And I'm like, guys, if treasury rates keep going up for all the other things that could be impacted, the cap rates are going to get higher, which means the values could fall further. If your NOI is pushed by higher taxes and higher insurance, your value is going to go lower, not higher. And so you have to get, especially on commercial, 15, 20% off isn't good enough. In residential, 20% is a great discount. In commercial, in today's environment, you got to get 40. I mean, the values have already fallen 40%. So you shouldn't be buying it at today's values thinking, oh, wow, I've got a 40% discount. Today it's worth this, and I want a better deal than what it's worth today to have room for all the construction costs, the increased costs, and the potentially higher interest rates. So Kenny's smart to hold off. And if he's holding off on a deal like that, it tells you that there's further to fall, and you've got to make a really good deal. And for commercial, the most important thing, Michael, and you preach this, it's in your book about alligators. You don't want a commercial alligator. A residential alligator will cost you money, but multiply that times 200 units, 400 units. They become almost insurmountable, the amount of loss that you could take by not getting a good enough deal, or being impatient and rushing to do a deal for a small discount could change you forever, not for the good, financially. So you've got to get really good discounts on commercial. You've got to really know what you're doing. Do not chase these seminars that tell you bigger is better. Bigger, more units is definitely better. For those of us that have the experience to take them down, there will continue to be huge opportunity, and the pain isn't done yet. But just be very careful to make sure whatever you buy it at a price where at today's interest rate, it cash flows with a really good cushion that allows you to absorb some lower rents if that comes and we have a recession, as well as higher costs.
Yeah, the other thing, again, I think it's really important for people to realize is if you're an owner in this case, that building that Ken was looking at, you bought it for 40, You got a debt for 25. Your LPs are 15. You've known for quite a while that you're in trouble. So what happens is you basically bleed the property trying to survive. You
Right.
start doing band-aids and skip things, and you start
Right.
stealing from units to make other units look good. And it's just a recipe for disaster. And that's what I think a lot of banks aren't getting in this whole we'll give you one more year thing, because I bought multiple assets in the last cycle where banks extended and pretended for the owners, and the assets just got worse and worse and worse. And they
It's
took bigger
hard.
discounts.
Yeah, it's a difficult situation because when you have overpaid, even if you're doing all the right things, when the economy starts to flounder, so many things are working against you that you cannot control. And I won't pretend to be immune to it, Michael. I mean, I have assets that we bought, and thankfully we have good debt, on those properties. But we have assets that we bought. We got it at a great deal and a great discount, and there's still a bear to manage and to keep occupied and to keep net profit when our insurance went from $400 a year per unit to $1,200 a year per unit. When you're, when your taxes double and no matter what the appeals are, you don't win always, so there's hard things, and you do your best to continue that asset and to continue to do well by your investors. But when so many things are working against you in the economy, even really, really, really experienced great operators are going to struggle to keep those properties going until rates fall and the economy gets better. It's just the reality. There's bigger risk and bigger dollars come with, bigger headaches, and you run out of money a lot faster. And so, I do feel for a lot of people who bought good assets with good debt and still are having the struggles. But for those LPs that are losing everything on really bad assets where they overpaid in really bad markets, it's so unfortunate. It's sad, and it's hard, and there's lessons to be learned, for all of us in this kind of game. But don't buy you must go bigger. Sometimes the smaller properties are the ones that are stable. You just grow your property, you build your portfolio, you go slightly bigger, but you got to know what you're doing. You got to buy great assets in great locations with great debt.
Yep, I love it. Bigger is not always better. The last thing I'll share with you is Ken did put a time frame on this. He expects these, come to Jesus meeting, if you will, the pain to kind of peak in 2026. So I think your pray to the heavens and survive to 27 was exactly correct, exactly right. So Ken, I think would support you on that. Anna, where can people find you?
Great. You can find me here on Facebook at Anna Kelly, REI Mom. And for real estate coaching and consulting, you can find me at AnnaKellyInvesting.com.
Thank you so much. Have a great week.